My name is Maria Rodriguez de Almeida. I am a psychoanalyst who recently introduced mineral balancing in my practice. I am super excited. Think about it. What if our symptoms weren't random? What if both the body and the mind were trying to tell us something? Something essential. In my work, in my practice, I have started to combine two powerful tools. On the one hand, psychoanalysis, which help us understand the deep unconscious roots of our suffering, and mineral balancing, that you know well, which works with the body's own chemistry to restore energy, clarity, and resilience. They seem to come from different words, but together I realize they form a very powerful combination, because healing is not just emotional or physical, it is both. The unconscious speaks through the body, and the body reflects what the psyche cannot yet say in words. Psychoanalysis helps us listen. Mineral balancing helps us regulate. Together, they allow us to transform. I would like to start with the foundation of psychoanalysis, because I believe many of you misunderstand what it truly is. I know it sounds old, but I'm going to show you how I think it works hand in hand with mineral balancing to support lasting, integrated healing. Let's start by the beginning. Why is Freud so famous? I guess you have some ideas. Freud discovered the concept of the unconscious in 1900 in the interpretation of dreams. Since then, unfortunately, both Freud and psychoanalysis have been accused of being unscientific, immoral, and uninterested in healing. But from my experience, I would like to explain the truth behind these unfounded criticisms. What is the difference between psychiatry, psychology, and psychoanalysis? The main difference is that psychiatry and psychology don't take the unconscious into account, whereas psychoanalysis places the unconscious at the center of the psychic life. According to psychoanalysis, in the unconscious is the source of our mental life. Consciousness is produced by the unconscious and is deceptive, just like our emotions and even our senses. Let's take an example. If we watch the sun move through the sky, it looks like the sun revolves around the earth. But thanks to Copernicus, we know that actually it's the earth that moves around the sun. We trust our conscious perception too much. We are overly rational. Just like our vision can be deceived, so can our consciousness. The unconscious is the only way to access reality, but it's not directly visible. It has no location. We can only observe its effects. Why did Freud focus on dreams? Because dreams are effects of the unconscious, and everyone dreams, not just people who are sick. I know it's a bit complicated. I promise you will understand. Other effects include slips of the tongue, jokes, and symptoms. The only way to access the unconscious, and therefore to see reality more clearly, is through interpretation. In session, the patient speaks freely, and the psychoanalyst interprets the unique logic of the unconscious. If we don't interpret the unconscious, it rules us. We suffer from it, but we can change it, because rational methods alone can't reach it. Psychoanalysis helps us think differently and be more creative. You know that feeling when you forget the name of a movie, it's in the tip of your tongue, but it won't come. Then later, when you stop thinking about it, it just pops up. Boom! That's the unconscious at work. Or when we say we have like a problem or a difficult decision to make, and we say, okay, let me sleep on it. And the next morning, everything is clearer. It is not magic, it's psychoanalytic thinking in action. We are all creative and intelligent, but we were taught to over-rely on reason and ignore the unconscious. But reason, like sight, is limited. We have seen that in the example of the sun and the earth. Moral beliefs, education, and rigid ideas block our access to unconscious thought. What a shame. Psychoanalysis sets us free. It's like poetry. It opens up new possibilities. It helps us build things that didn't exist there before. It gives us a new reading of reality. In daily life, we need to navigate two main emotions, anxiety and guilt. If we don't, they create tremendous discomfort. Lacan, a French psychoanalyst, used to say that before the action, we will experience anxiety, and after the action, we will always have guilt and regret. Talking about anxiety, we all have had moments of panic, or know someone who is constantly stressed. We know well now this cell danger response. Anxiety is not bad, it's a signal, it's a warning of the system. But if we feel constantly there is something off, we are not in danger all the time, we know that well. People who live in chronic stress often can't tolerate uncertainty. They imagine the worst case scenario because that feels safer than waiting. Psychoanalysis helps you live more peacefully by teaching you how to tolerate uncertainty. Another big topic in psychoanalysis is unconscious guilt. Why do we need a psychoanalyst who interprets reality? Because reality is not what it seems. Most people think failure comes from laziness, bad luck, or lack of talent. But Freud wrote in 1960 about people who fail when they succeed. Why? Because for many, I would say, success is harder to bear than failure. Failure serves as a punishment that is unconscious guilt. You get the promotion you work so hard for, and suddenly, boom, you start sabotaging yourself and you start to do a very bad job. Or you win over someone you have been pursuing and then feel you cannot love them. Psychoanalysis helps us interpret these unconscious patterns so we can stop punishing ourselves and finally allow ourselves to succeed and be happy. Psychoanalysis doesn't just heal the mind, it protects the body. We know that chronic stress, anxiety, and depression lead to illness over time. We also know that cancer and infections most of the times are preceded by depression, and chronic complex conditions, especially autoimmune disease and things like Lyme, MCAS, CFS, so common today, are preceded by trauma. Mainstream medicine still struggles to explain this, but psychoanalysis offers insight and prevention. By treating unconscious guilt, anxiety, and emotional conflicts, psychoanalysis helps protect us from chronic disease. It gives us a new kind of health, a new way to live, not just symptom-free, but free to become who we really are, something quite hard nowadays. So, what does all of this have to do with mineral balancing? I guess you will be asking yourself this. Everything, because while psychoanalysis helps us understand the unconscious reasons why we suffer, mineral balancing works with the biological reality of the body, supporting the physical shifts that allow emotional and psychological transformation to happen. The unconscious doesn't just speak through dreams or words, it speaks through the whole body, through chronic fatigue, digestive problems, skin issues, hormonal imbalances, and yes, through the mineral patterns we see in the hair. Over the past months, since I began integrating mineral balancing into my psychoanalytic work, I have come to see mineral patterns as messages from the body. As a psychoanalyst, I have always believed that symptoms carry meaning. I always knew about the psychosomatic disorder. However, when I began reviewing HTMA results, something clicked. The body is like if it has its own unconscious language. And these mineral patterns were telling me stories about burnout, repression, survival, an effort to hold it all together. What I'm about to share are patterns, or maybe the interpretation, that I have seen in clients and also in myself. And to me, they reflect not just physical imbalances, but psychological defenses, emotional stories, and deep unconscious conflicts. Let me talk to you about them. So, 4 highs. This is my personal example. When I ran my first HTMA, I saw something that hit close to home. I was in a 4 highs pattern. High calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium. On paper, obviously this meant my body was in a state of high internal stress, holding both tension and pressure. But what strikes me most was how well it matched with my inner life. For years and for many different reasons, I have always carried a strong sense of responsibility for myself, for others, for my work, of needing to keep everything together, of pushing my boundaries. It's true, I wasn't running on panic or I didn't feel like that, but more on a kind of internal armor. I was doing fine, but I was always super high alert, always managing. I find that this pattern is common in people who, like me, appear strong on the outside but carry a lot of suppressed emotion in the inside. We keep going, we perform, we control, but underneath there is a part of us who is exhausted, and yet I couldn't stop. Thanks to Kalmak, at some point I managed. For me, mineral balancing helped reduce that internal pressure. On top of that, I was one of those super sensitive patients who would react to almost everything. I really needed calcium, but when I started, I could only tolerate a capsule or half of it every 2 or 3 days. With a lot of patience, I managed to increase the tolerance to supplements, especially to Kalmak, and my biochemistry, little by little, started to change, and then I couldn't stop. Psychoanalysis helped me explore the story underneath, the belief that if I don't manage everything, it will all fall apart, or the idea that resting or stopping is unsafe. Healing, for me, didn't just come from balancing my minerals. I don't think for most of people it does. It came from allowing myself to soften. I would say about 70% of my patients are in what we well know as the calcium cell. High calcium, the freeze pattern. I have seen extremely high calcium levels even in people who appear very calm and composed. What I have come to understand is that this calm is often a survival adaptation. These individuals have often learned early in life that emotion is dangerous. That feeling too much means being overwhelmed, punished, or rejected. So their body adapts. High calcium acts like a cell, as we know. It numbs emotion, slows metabolism, and creates a sense of stillness. But beneath that cell, there is often grief, longing, a sense of a life not fully lived. In session, these clients sometimes struggle to connect with emotion, I would say most of times. They want to understand, but not feel. As the mineral balancing begins to mobilize calcium, it's beautiful to see how they start to remove old emotions, begin fears, memories, sensations. And with psychoanalysis, they gain the language to process them. It helps them build a life that is not so overwhelming, they have to go numb. Another pattern that I have seen a lot is the burnout pattern. This is one of the patterns I see a lot as well. These are often the high-functioning caregivers, the perfectionists, the ones who carry everyone else, and eventually, boom, they crash. Their body is depleted. Their adrenals have nothing left. They are hurt, the shows, the collapse. But what matters is the story behind it. These people usually carry a deep unconscious message, like, I'm only lovable when I'm useful, or I don't have the right to rest. Psychoanalysis gives voice to these inner messages and allows the person to transform those limiting beliefs. Mineral balancing gives the body what it needs to rebuild. And in that combination, we see true recovery, not just energy coming back, but new ways of living. That is the beauty. Furloughs, the collapse of adaptation. When I see a furloughs pattern, low calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, I don't see failure. I see a body that's refusing to play the game, the same game. These clients are often profoundly tired, not just physically, but existentially. They have tried everything. They have read every blog, taken every supplement on the earth, done all the right things, and still they feel stuck. What I have learned is that furloughs isn't just about nutrients, it's about meaning. It's a signal that the old strategies aren't working, that something deeper needs to shift. These clients often benefit most from slowness, gentleness, and symbolic work. Their body doesn't want to be fixed, it wants to be heard. And then the hidden copper toxicity. I would say that some of the most sensitive, intelligent, and intense clients I have worked with show signs of hidden copper toxicity. I would say there were most of them. Even if the copper doesn't appear high on the test, the symptoms speak pretty loudly. Racing thoughts, mood swings, panic, a feeling of being overwhelmed by everything, absolutely everything. These are the people who feel everything too much. And sometimes they carry deeper inner conflicts around control, perfectionism, emotional boundaries. The nervous system is on edge, the mind is spinning, and rest feels impossible. It is for me early days, but my hope is that with the right program, these symptoms, little by little, can resolve and improve a lot. And through psychoanalysis, we explore the deeper fear. What happens if I let go of control? In these cases, healing is not just relief. It feels like liberation, I can tell you. So, to wrap up, I would like to say that mineral balancing has helped me read the unconscious, not only in speech, but in physiology. Together with psychoanalysis, it allows me to accompany clients on all levels, psychic, emotional, and cellular. It allows me to offer them a more holistic and complete approach. When the unconscious is heard and the body is nourished, healing happens. Not just freedom from symptoms, but the freedom to become who we really are. Thank you.